We're here with one of the New Yorker cartoonists, Emily Flake. Hey,
Hello.
Emily,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you for having
Nice
me.
job.
Hello. Thank you.
So oh my God, the shoes are incredible.
Thank you very
And my
much.
husband's looking at your socks.
Yeah, the socks are from
Woo!
Uniqlo. They can be yours for pennies.
I shop at women's socks for him. He
Yeah.
loves wearing.
Well,
Is that
yeah.
a secret I shouldn't have disclosed? That's cool. Okay.
Let's keep talking about
Yeah,
his
let's
socks,
do that.
though.
Yeah.
This is,
Is your little one with you?
you all didn't hear her screaming? 10 minutes ago, and then it became clear that it was time for her to go back to the hotel. Yeah, there was a lot of door slamming happening, so she's with Daddy.
Oh, okay.
Much to her chagrin.
So officially, how many cartoons of yours have been published in the New Yorker?
Now around 200 if you count the dailies.
Wow.
Yeah, the daily cartoons is a relatively new thing. It's sort of a rotating gig that they do between the cartoonists. So if you do a daily cartoon for the website, so between that and I've done that a couple times. So between that and the print, around 200.
Do they pay as much online?
They do not.
How easily does it come to you? Has it come to you?
It depends. Ask me on any different day. Sometimes it's wonderfully easy. That's about 2.5% of the time, and the rest of the time it is desperately hard.
Well, like I picture, you're sitting there trying to come up with an idea, and then nothing's happening.
That's a very accurate portrayal.
So
yes.
so you move from room to room sometimes to get
Room to
change
room,
of location.
Yeah, change of location, more coffee, less coffee, go for a walk, do the dishes.
You're not like Roz, that you avoid going outdoors.
No, I like going outdoors. She lives in Connecticut, so her living space is much bigger than mine. So yeah.
Are you from New York?
I'm not. I'm actually from Connecticut originally, 2 towns east of Hartford.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Great.
The less nice part.
Yeah, right. The less nice part,
Right.
yeah. And you talked a little bit about, got a little serious about what it takes to be funny as a cartoonist, and you had a tough time growing up. And did that feed that in a way?
Yes, definitely. I hesitate to really paint it as like that tough. I wasn't beaten or locked in a closet or anything like that. So I feel like suffering is sort of relative. I got teased a lot, but generally speaking, I feel like I don't want to oversell the.
Sure.
We're not talking a Dickensian thing. We're just talking about sort of a tubby kid with glasses. So just enough to knock me slightly off kilter view-wise, but not enough to crush my spirit.
It didn't
I
crush
guess
you.
that's the sweet spot. If you're looking at being bullied versus not bullied.
So you were bullied?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said in the film that it really kind of helped feed that, cartoon side, and that it was almost
absolutely.
a requirement in a way.
Well, I think you need to have something that makes it so that you don't slide very easily into the rest of the world, no matter what that is. And for a lot of people, it's not fitting in as a kid, or it could be, it could be anything really that just makes it a little bit rougher. But yeah, in retrospect, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, if it made me who I am, I'm happy with it.
And it's interesting then applying it to how you're raising your daughter now.
Right.
Would you?
I mock her mercilessly
I
just
know,
so she won't have.
Could you imagine her being as creative? And do you think she needs to go through some kind of test like that as she gets older? I mean, do you envision anything like that?
I mean, I think she'll have to go through a test as she gets older just to not be a horrible human being. But as a parent...
Are you serious about that? You're serious?
Yeah, no, I think if you lead an unchallenged life, I don't think you become a good person. I'm not saying I'm a good person, but I think that a certain level of challenge is certainly, absolutely a requirement.
Do you think bullying is a requirement for everybody coming up?
No, not necessarily. I think it's painful at the time, but ultimately instructive. But I don't think it's necessarily I don't think it has to be that challenge. And I will say that as her mother, if somebody was mean to her, I would want to kill that person. So it's I can't be like, well, I'm going to make sure she gets bullied. Yeah.
Or what? Then you can make a cartoon out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just going to keep mining her for
Are you doing that? Have you done that?
To an extent, I wrote a book that came out in October called Mama Tried. It's cartoons and essays about parenting. So yes, I have managed to monetize her more than I probably deserve to.
Mama tried.
Yeah.
What did you try? What have you tried?
You try every day, right? You try to, be a decent human person and a not entirely reprehensible parent. So, I feel like we're getting there.
Why did you want to write a book about it?
Well, I think as a cartoonist, you pull so much from your everyday life, and that's such a big part of your everyday life when you have a child. So yeah, I mean that just started to be my whole world, and that kind of.
And then in the
translated
film,
into
you
a book.
mentioned that, hey, I'm happy now.
Right.
How am I gonna do cartoons?
It was a really interesting sort of perspective shift. I think another thing about using things like, a less than ideal childhood or something like that, I think it's very easy to fall into a rut where you sort of start to believe your own hype as a certain kind of person. For a number of reasons, I wince watching myself in that, not least of which because I think I say a lot of very bratty things. And now that she's a little bit older, it feels like, I feel like right when she was very little, that was a point where I was sort of letting go of what I used to think was my comedic engine, which was this sort of, mopey sense of alienation, I guess. That
You
sort of
became
came
less
from a
of a
very
brat.
adolescent place.
You became less of a brat as a mom.
I hope I became less of a brat. I am trying to become less of a brat.
Why is it that feeds creativity so
Brattiness?
often? Yeah.
Ask almost
Or
any artist.
angst,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's a pretty well-worn trope, this sort of the mopey, disaffected artist. I don't think it makes you great.
What do you think one of your greatest cartoons is?
Ooh. Now I can't think of a single one I've done. That's a really good question.
What are you proudest of? Does one strike you right off?
Does one strike me right off the bat? I really liked that free trade cocaine one. I noticed that did not get any laughs. So I don't know if you all are not a cocaine crowd or not a free trade crowd. Possibly both. I liked that cartoon. I really did.
But now you're focusing on parenthood.
I actually
With the new book, right?
With the new book, yes. With the things that I submit to the New Yorker, I do try to shy away from it. I try not to hit that too many times. Because I don't want to, I don't want to shoehorn myself into just one subject. So, I mean, inevitably there are parenting ones, but I try not to hit that too hard.
Yeah. And what was the experience like doing this film and with Leah, the filmmaker?
It was great. I mean, they worked on it for so long.
Did they
worked
really?
on it for years and years. It took them, I think, they started filming before I started doing cartoons for the New Yorker, I believe, or maybe around the same time.
How long ago was that?
They were filming for about 6 or 7 years. So this is the fact that they managed to stick with it for so long is a real testament to their perseverance. It's amazing. And they had funding, and then they lost funding. They kickstarted a bunch to finish the film. So really, they're an amazing group of women.
What do you think of it overall?
I think they did a fantastic job. I think it's a beautiful documentary. I think it's a wonderfully humanizing portrait of Bob.
Oh my gosh, I was quite amazed by that.
Yeah. So I
and
think
that they allowed that.
Yes.
He and his wife both.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it was very, very.
Did that
brave.
surprise you?
I mean, I can't say I know Bob's story and I know him. It surprised me a little bit that he would sort of let his guard down in a way. But I think that's a very respectable thing to have done. It's admirable.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with how his son died.
It was his wife's son, his stepson. It's not really my story to tell.
Yeah, right. But it was his story to tell, and he told it.
It was,
in his memoir. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was quite moving, and yet told the whole story too of the New Yorker's history and all of that.
Yeah.
What's it like for you to be a part of that now?
I mean, to call it an honor kind of undersells it, I think, really. It's really an amazing thing. And yeah, I mean, it's something that, not to be too on the nose earnest about it, but it's something that I try to live up to every week when, I send in the batch. So, with, with it, I guess, we come back to that 2.5% success rate.
Do we have any questions? Any questions of Emily? Go ahead.
You said every week. Do you do every week? Do you submit?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there are times, if a week goes by and, if it's been a very busy week with other work or something like that, but for the most part, yes, every week.
And do you submit for other publications or strictly New Yorker?
I'm on contract with the New Yorker, which means they get first pass at anything that I do, so I submit to them first. But I mean, the point they make in the film is that there are very few other outlets for it. So yeah, some of the ones that they don't take, I'll submit to MAD or a couple other publications. But it's a very, very, very it's a big desert out there now for single panel gag cartoons.
Yeah, and disappearing quickly, right?
Yeah.
But Mad Magazine, have you been published in Mad?
I have, which 12-year-old me is just thrilled about.
Oh my God, that is so awesome.
But yeah, they still publish. They're quarterly now, but they still publish. They still buy cartoons, and they are wonderful to work with.
Have you ever been in Playboy?
I have not been in. I got a very nice rejection letter from Playboy. You know who runs cartoons? Barely Legal runs cartoons. I sent some stuff to them once and got a very form rejection letter printed upside down on their letterhead with a big hole punched in the middle of it.
Oh, nice.
That I felt like I should have that framed.
I'm surprised you haven't.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, this whole experience, do you think this will put cartoonists back on the map or help in a way or inspire others to?
I feel like the cartoons of the New Yorker are, especially because I feel like they were always like the best of the people that published single panel gag cartoons. Now that they are pretty much the only one, I think that just the format itself of single panel gags sort of is almost synonymous with New Yorker cartoons. So, I feel like the cartoons weren't exactly in danger of flagging vis-a-vis the New Yorker. As an art form in general, there are fewer and fewer outlets specifically for single panel gags. That said, I think there are more outlets for longer pieces. Graphic novels have been enjoying a 20-year renaissance. There are more outlets for sort of cartoon narrative. Single panel gags are kind of a different animal, though, and that they are now sort of exclusively the province of the New Yorker.
But it just seems like there's so many young people coming up, as shown in the film, who are capable, are talented, and want to do this. Yeah,
which is great, and I think that the magazine is very enthusiastically embracing some of those younger people, which is fantastic.
Could you see yourself teaching?
I do. I teach a cartoon, a single panel gag and long form cartooning course at SVA.
So single panel gag is what it's called.
Yes, that's your bit of cartoon vocab for the night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Emily.